Lost and Alone in Mumbai. The part of Mark Abels is played by an actor.
This is Mark Abels, an oil engineer, originally from Texas in the USA. Thanks for coming in.
Hi, Laurie.
I understand that this was your first trip to India and you were expecting somebody to meet you at the airport.
That's right. I just didn't take into account the possibility that I would not be picked up at the airport, so I was totally unprepared for what happened.
So what did happen?
Well, there I was in the arrivals hall with all my luggage, 2 suitcases and my laptop, and I started looking around for someone holding a sign with my name on it. But of course, there wasn't anybody.
How did you feel when you realized you were on your own now?
On one hand, I told myself not to panic. But on the other hand, I could see I was surrounded by all these strange faces staring at what they probably thought was a rich businessman or tourist who looked absolutely lost. I walked up and down looking for the driver whom I still hoped would arrive to meet me. But by now I was getting tired of dragging my luggage around the airport, and I realized that I had no choice but to face reality.
What was the first thing you did?
As I didn't think I would need cash to get to the hotel, I had brought neither Indian currency nor any dollars with me, and it was clear that money for a taxi was my top priority. I suddenly noticed that the nearest ATM was outside the terminal and surrounded by masses of local people, and I was not very enthusiastic about having to plow my way through them to get my cash. Fortunately, when I arrived at the machine, I saw that there was a door that closed behind me and an official there to help me. So now I had rupees, and off I went to find a taxi. Eventually, I discovered a rank of taxis so small that I didn't think they would hold all my luggage. Well, the driver did finally manage to squeeze it all in. I showed him the name and address of the hotel on a piece of paper written in English. It didn't take me long to find out that he didn't understand English at all.
Oh no.
We drove off, slowly at first, through the heavy traffic of cars and bicycles, and soon started speeding towards the new Mumbai neighborhoods. Well, when I say speeding, what you should know is that every so often the driver would stop to ask me to remind him the name of the hotel. Then, he'd stop to ask directions from passers-by. This really didn't give me a feeling of great confidence, I can tell you.
Yes, I can imagine.
We made other stops too. My luggage was so heavy for the small taxi that it kept overheating, and he had to pull over and add water to the radiator. Which reminds me, there was no air conditioning in the taxi either.
What a performance. Why didn't you phone the hotel and get them to give the driver directions?
Well, that was the other problem. I had no idea what codes to dial in order to make contact in Mumbai. So the driver used his phone and dialed the telephone numbers on my piece of paper. Unfortunately, the instructions they gave him didn't seem to help much, and we still kept stopping to ask the way. I mean, there were times when I thought, hey, this guy could be taking me anywhere. Steal my wallet and passport, throw me out of the taxi, and leave me for dead in the middle of nowhere.
Yes, I can see the situation. A friend of mine had a similar experience when he arrived in Moscow, and the taxi driver took him through endless forests before finally reaching the part of town he needed.
Anyway, to cut a long story short, eventually we turned the corner and I finally saw the hotel and breathed a huge sigh of relief. The whole journey had taken about 3 hours. When I did the return journey back to the airport at the end of the trip, it took less than an hour.
So what are your conclusions from your experience?
Well, first you should take into account the possibility that you won't be picked up at the airport for whatever reason, a puncture or breakdown or misunderstanding about arrival times, etc., and have a plan ready for such an emergency, which is exactly what I didn't have. It is common sense, wherever you are flying in the world, to take dollars with you. But next time I will also do some homework on the internet and make sure I know the exact dialing codes and dialing procedures of the key people in the country I am planning to visit, who will be able to help me if I get stuck. Finally, I would ask the hotel or company you are visiting to fax or mail you a copy of their headed paper, as this will probably have the logo and contact information written in the local language, so any taxi driver will be able to locate his destination.
Good idea. By the way, what do you do with first-time guests in your country?
Even before my rather unpleasant experience, it was company practice to meet a first-time visitor. Now that I know what it feels like to be lost and alone as a first-time visitor in a foreign country, we will certainly be keeping that policy. On later trips, once visiting businessmen have had a little orientation and know their way around, we expect them to take a taxi, which of course we will happily arrange for them.
Well, thanks very much, Mark, and have a safe journey next time.
Thanks very much.